reason I wanted to show these visuals was to highlight how the world or how the environment around us is. Life is not always under your control, and factors like these affect your life in a big way. And these are just the external emergencies that we face in our lives, whereas we also have personal emergencies many a times, and people do have cases wherein they have met with an accident, unfortunately, or had a bitter divorce. So things like these put a strain on not just your physical and mental well-being, but also your financial well-being. And one thing you do not want to think about when you actually are going through such difficulties is, how do I arrange for the money during that period? So that is where an emergency fund comes into the picture. Welcome to our channel. I am Rahul and this is Funway Runway. On today's video, what we're going to cover is the importance of an emergency fund. An emergency could be something like what you saw at the beginning of this video, or it could be something far more personal. And in either way, you do not want to be in a position where you have to worry about the money to fund yourself while you sort out all your difficulties or all the emergency situations that you are into currently. Emergency funds therefore have to be robust. It is the first item in your investment plan which needs to be structured and put into place. No matter if you are 21, if you are 18, or if you are even in your 40s, 50s even. So an emergency fund is the first and foremost item that you need to figure out and sort it out within your financial planning and personal finance journey. An emergency fund could be thought of like a piggy bank, which I mentioned in my earlier video, and it is only to be broken when there is an emergency. So unless and until there is an emergency, you do not touch that piggy bank under whatever circumstances. So in that case, it should be something that should be easily liquidated, but at the same time, it should not be so easy that you take out the money on a regular basis. It should be somewhere between 3 to 6 months of your monthly expense outgoes. So the first step in determining what the emergency fund corpus should be is to identify what your monthly expense outgoes are. So once you've done that, you move on to the next step. How do you set up an emergency fund? So people do have emergency funds that are based out of their savings bank account. Now it is very important, if you do that, keep a separate savings bank account, an account which you normally do not use with your day-to-day expense or you use it for your investments. Just keep the emergency fund parked in a separate account. An alternative to that would be to park your emergency fund in a liquid fund. So a liquid fund is a subset of a debt fund. So if I am to differentiate between what a debt and an equity is where you become a shareholder of the company, and debt is where you loan an amount to the company. So debts are considered to be relatively safer bets compared to equity. And within debt, the most safest of them all is a liquid fund. The reason liquid funds are safer is because liquid funds are very short duration bonds. So it is ideally around 90 days, and it usually invests in government-backed treasury bills or high credit bonds. So it is relatively very safer. Now the reason you should think of this option is because the savings bank account gives you an interest rate of say 3 to 4% in India, whereas a liquid fund would give you a slightly higher interest rate. So there are other options as well. There is an ultra short-term bond and there is also short-term bond. As it goes ahead, the duration of the bond increases and thus the risk increases. So the longer the duration, the higher the risk. That is the primary concept while deciding what kind of debt you are going to put money in. So that's about it. That's the basic difference between a liquid fund, an ultra short-term fund, and a savings bank account. If you want to invest in a liquid fund, make sure you do that through a direct investment and not through a regular mutual fund investment. In direct, you are directly putting your money with the mutual fund house, whereas in regular, there is an intermediary in between, say a securities company or a financial institution, which acts as an intermediary for your funds to be parked with the mutual fund house. So then in that case, there is a commission involved. So my advice would be to go to the direct mutual fund investment platform and then put your money in a liquid fund. You have options like Covera, you have Grow, you have Zerodha. So through these platforms, what you can do is you can park your emergency fund amount in a suitable liquid fund. Make sure before you do that the liquid fund has a lot of subscriptions in terms of the AUM, assets under management. So that ensures that many people have a trust or a faith in that particular liquid fund. So do your own research before you put your money, but make sure you understand what the primary difference between a savings bank based emergency fund is and what a liquid fund based emergency fund is. I hope this video has helped you get some clarity on what the two options are. Either way, make sure that you do have an emergency fund in place before you think of any kinds of spending, any kinds of investments, any kinds of loans that you plan to take up. Once you're done, I think we are ready to move to the next part of our personal finance journey, and that we will cover on our next video coming up next week. I hope to see you there as well. Till then, good day and see you soon.